For too long, Eurocentrism have dominated our understanding of the world. It has influenced our view on history and different cultures. This is exactly why, today, I will be talking about the harmful effects of Eurocentrism, as well as the importance of rejecting this limiting perspective. You might be rightfully asking yourselves, what is Eurocentrism, and why is it such a big problem? These are very basic questions, but the answer to these questions is actually very hard. And the reason it is hard is that defining Eurocentrism is so hard. The borders of it is almost invisible. Now, in definition, Eurocentrism is defined as a doctrine. This doctrine places Europe and the Western world at the center of human civilization. It sees Europe as the bearer of universal values and logic. It sets Europe as the pinnacle of human progress. It sets the bar as Europe. And it seeks to impose European norms on the rest of the world. Now, I will give an example to this situation from our daily lives. Let's think about the romanticized version of our lives. What's a common image that pops up in our heads? When we think about the romanticized version of our lives, we often think of some fairyland, sitting by the fireplace, reading Edgar Allan Poe, sipping our coffee, and taking a bite from our croissants. As somebody who hates French pastry and doesn't prefer reading Edgar Allan Poe, when I envision myself romanticizing, my mind automatically thought of these things. Because as individuals, how we decide to perceive ourselves is heavily influenced under Eurocentric norms. This shows us how this norm is so deeply ingrained on our societies. Now, the other question that pops up is, where does this come from? What's the origins of it? Eurocentrism can be traced back to the Age of Enlightenment. And I'd like to draw your attention to a very interesting point. Even the term Age of Enlightenment is a Eurocentric norm, because it's enlightenment for Europe. But the golden age of Islam and Tang and Song dynasties of China were long gone before this age, but yet we call it the Age of Enlightenment. Now, Age of Enlightenment supposedly saw the rise in scientific achievements and rational thinking, which led Europe to believe that they were superior, because if there is some superior value, being rationalism and science, and they are the bearers of it, then they must be superior. That's the logic behind it. Now, this belief was imposed through different disciplines, such as history and anthropology. As we said, even the names of the eras, such as Age of Enlightenment, is Eurocentric norms. Now, the effects of Eurocentrism have been devastating, both for Europe and indigenous cultures. Eurocentrism has its roots in slavery, imperialism, racism, and inner European conflicts. Colonialism is a glaring example. European powers throughout the history invaded, occupied African lands, and exploited natural resources, and used native people as workforce. This led to marginalization and alienation of local people. They lost the statement of their culture. They lost their inheritance. And they grew a resentment and hatred towards the West. Now, this created a lasting legacy of inequality and injustice. Now, this legacy is not called colonialism, because colonialism seems to be long gone, at least in the name. But this legacy is carried out through different forms today. In our day and age, there is such thing as America in Middle East. Their interventionism shows us how Eurocentric notions are still being used today. America has been constantly intervening in Middle East since the mid-20th century. They did this by using claims such as they were bringing democracy and freedom to the local people. Now, these operations were usually carried out without the consent of the local people as well. This led to radicalist movements that hated the West and viewed them only as violent parties of this. Now, America sees itself as the champion of democracy and freedom. But its actions were actually, the main reason their actions was they wanted to maintain their dominance and also their pride. Now, what America did is definitely comes from Eurocentric notions. Because if it weren't for a modified version of Eurocentrism, they wouldn't be able to justify their actions and bring deaths of millions of people in the region. As if all this chaos and mayhem wasn't enough, there are also instances in history where Europe got a taste of their own medicine, if you might say. Now, through economic instability, Europe came up with radicalist movements, such as fascism in 20th century. These radicalist movements imposed the Eurocentric norms. They wanted to be the superior European form. But all of these European powers had different identities for themselves, and their definition of superior European life form was different, which led to chaos. And the ultimate expression of this was the Second World War. Now, as you see, Eurocentrism is a vast and substantial topic, but we shall not be cowed by this false doctrine, nor shall we allow it to define who we are. Ladies and gentlemen, everything humanity did, everything brilliant, everything stupid, is our common heritage. It is neither European, nor Greek, nor Roman. It is definitely ours. So, I urge everyone in this room to work towards a more inclusive world. Let's work together to create a more inclusive world and make see world as a whole. After all, it's a right, not a privilege. Thank you all for listening.